Lift your love at first.
All right, good morning.
Okay.
Today, for today's Bible study, we'll be talking about Matthew chapter 24, verse 36 through 51. There are pages up front in the narthex. It's on page 60, starts on 66, and then goes to page 67 in these Bibles, these ones that are in the pews. So if you have them, if not, again, Matthew 24, 36 through 51. And I'll read it and you guys can follow along. But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating, drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the end of the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a handmill, and one will be taken off and the other left. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. So who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom the master has put in charge of the servants in his household, to give them their food at the proper time? It will be given for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all of his possessions. But suppose that servant is wicked and says to himself, my master is staying away a long time. And he then begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunkards. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him into pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. It was a big passage, but there's some really good material here. Father John in previous spoke about the passage beforehand, and this goes really hand in hand with that passage as well. So when I first read this passage, all that came to mind were a lot of these bogus, for the lack of a better word, bogus end of the world predictions. We hear that at the end of time, no one will know the time or place. So I did something that turns out to be a little stupid. I went onto Google, I went onto the computer, and I Google searched predictions of the end of the world, because I knew there were so many, but I really didn't know how many there were. And I'm telling you, the stuff that came up was all over the place. There was, the number one search result was a Wikipedia article that literally gave every single one with all the evidence supporting their claim. This was seriously one of the longest Wikipedia articles I could ever think of. And it listed all the ones that had passed. We heard of the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012. I saw a gentleman named Harold Camping. His name popped up more than 10 times. He had tried to predict the end of the world 10 times and said he had this equation that could predict the end of the world at the exact time, at the exact moment, and he revised this said equation more than 10 times. So that was fun. Then we have Y2K. We have Edgar Whisenhunt in the 1980s. He wrote a book about the 88 reasons why the rapture could be in 1988. And this book, I guess, sold millions and millions of copies, and this man made a lot of money on giving 88 reasons on why the end of the world will be happening in 1988. And for those of you who might even know, I wasn't even born then, which is showing you my age, but it's really crazy to think that all of these people throughout all of this time had tried to predict it. And then there's ones that were not just ones that had passed, but the ones in the future. And I won't go through all of them, but I'll share my personal favorite, which was, I'm sorry, I laugh because it's just so ridiculous, is a group of scientists say that in the year 500 million, that there will be not enough carbon dioxide for the human species. in the year 500 million. None of us will, I'm sorry to say it, none of us will be alive then. I hope so, that'd be pretty cool, but 500 million? No, and then their evidence is that there wouldn't be enough carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and it would be so low that we couldn't be able to breathe. So, again, while this experience couldn't get any better, at the end of this really long article, they give a disclaimer, which I thought was the icing on the cake of this whole experience. It says, the list above shows the dates of predictions from notable groups or individuals of when the world was or is forecasted to end. Here's the best part. No predicted apocalyptic events have occurred so far. Clearly, we are all here, and clearly we're not being separated like sheep and goats, so clearly there have not been any apocalyptic events now, and in the future, we will, as we heard in our passage, we won't hear it. So all these people have this one thing in common. All these crazy, bogus predictions have this thing in common. They must have missed the text that we just read. Like we heard, no man, not any one of us, knows when that time will come. Yes, in previous passages, we hear that, we can kind of tell the signs of that time to come, where the end of the world is going to come, where the parable of the fig tree and so on. They say to watch for the signs, but those signs are not in the Bible for us to be able to predict anything, for us to be able to say, you want to know what the end of the world is going to happen the next day, 2 days from now, 3 days from now, a week from now, so that we can prepare ourselves. It's there so that we won't be expectant of his return, because we should be doing all these things at all the times. And when I was doing some of the research for our Bible study, I came across a really awesome passage of a fable, for that word, related to this, about 3 devils planning about coming to earth to destroy the human race. And they were talking to Satan, having this exchange, and the first demon goes, here's my plan to ruin the human race. I will tell them that there is no God. And Satan said, that will work for some, but many know that a God exists. The second devil said, I will tell men that there's no hell. Well, Satan answered, you will deceive not many that way, for people know that there's a hell for sin. And the third said, I will tell men that there is no hurry. And Satan paused and said, go tell them by the thousands, and you will ruin them. Because the most dangerous delusion that we all have is that we have plenty of time. The most dangerous day in a man's life and a woman's life is when we figure out and we have this crazy delusion that there is a tomorrow. Science tells us that the average life expectancy is 78. Some of us are older, some of us are younger. For myself, that would mean I would have 60 more years of life, right? Scientists say that I have until 78 before the average person. Well, but how do we know? The problem is that we assume and we take our lives for granted. We don't live our lives like there is a tomorrow. We probably should think that maybe there might not be tomorrow. A day is a gift, a day is a miracle. And when we think about death at early ages, we always say they always have a life in front of them. That there is always this section of time that this person could still be living. But how do we know that? That's not given to us. These are things that we assume. I remember talking about in one of my previous Bible studies about the power of our fears and how our fears occupy our minds, and they're so difficult to overcome. And most of it comes with control. And the number 2 most popular fear behind public speaking is the fear of death. And why do we fear death? Why do we fear the end of the world? Why do we fear all of these? Why do we try to predict the unpredictable? It is because we fear the unexpected. We fear not being able to choose our destiny. We fear how black and white the end of the world is, where we're either going, Father Chris has said it before, we're going to 2 places. We're either going to heaven or we're either going to hell. There's no gray area in that. It's just black and white. And that's what we fear. We fear that we are not going to be ready for when our time comes for us to meet our Lord, who we hear multiple times throughout the Bible that he loves us so much, but when that time comes that it's time for us to meet him, he will be our judge, this person that loves us unconditionally. is also going to be the person that tells us our destiny. It's this loss of control that we fear, like I said before. But within our lives, within the lives that we live, we do have control. Some people say we don't, but we do have a sense of control. It's called free will, and which can either be our greatest strength and obviously our greatest weakness. In this passage, we hear that we can choose to be like the faithful and wise servant, or we can be the wicked one. We can be the person that says, well, while the master is away, it's time to play, or we can be the one that takes our life seriously and prepare ourselves so that when our boss checks in on us, when God checks in on us and says, hey, how's it going? We can be like, oh, life is going just as much as you told me to. As opposed to, making excuses, I was doing this, and this, and I lost track of time, and I didn't have time to do this. We're not making excuses for our lives. So, not to speak for you all, I would say we all like to be like the faithful servant. We don't want to end up being the unwise one, gnashing our teeth and being in hell. And how do we do that? How do we get to the kingdom of heaven? How do we do this? Well, we're not given a statement without any type of guidance, of course. So we hear in our passage, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of a house had known what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and not let his house be broken into. So let's think about what we do within our own homes. Physically our own homes. We have alarm systems. We might have pets. We might have a security guard in our neighborhood. There are things that we do to protect our homes. And we hear in Corinthians, we are the temple of the living God. So what do we do for ourselves to protect ourselves in our spiritual homes? And we have each other. We have this community. We have St. Demetrius. We have prayer. We have the sacraments. This is how we protect our temple. This is how we're protecting our house, like the story says, so that a robber doesn't come in and steal and trash our homes. Another really important point is the word to keep watch. In the original, I always love going to the original Greek. For those of you who haven't experienced one of the Bible studies that I've done, I always love going to the original Greek. And that's because the original Greek, more times than none, is lost in translation. And the words that are put forth for us, for those who might not speak Greek, they're good, they're close. Keep watch is a good one. But the original Greek, the word that's used is grigoreo. And for the lack of, for the reason of the translation, it says to keep watch within the parable because it's you're talking about robbers and coming to our homes. But what that word really means is be alive. Doesn't mean keep watch, unfortunately. But more beautifully put, it means be alive. And when I saw these words, be alive, in my lexicon book, all I could think about was, we hear that thing, carpe diem. We hear that seize the moment. We always hear that saying. And how we should make sure we live our lives within each moment, making sure that whatever we're doing is in according to the law, is more so strengthening our relationship with Christ. And that's what we need to think about. We need to think about is what if Jesus was here, would he be happy? I can't speak for Jesus, but I would say yes. You guys are here to worship. We're all here so that we can be together. I would say, yeah, that makes us happy. But what do we do when we don't leave this place? What do we do when we're not here? The actions that we do on a daily basis, are they helping our relationship with Christ? Are they beneficial to that? Is it going to take us that one step closer to God? If not, I would say maybe you should jump on the path that's going to lead you there as opposed to creating a different path. Because when that time comes, like we said, the thing that we're so scared of, the thing that just overcomes us as an individual is that fear of that time's going to come for all of us, not for some of us, for all of us. And we're going to have the black or white. We're going to go into the heavenly kingdom or we're not. And like I said before, the God that loves us so much is also going to be our judge. And this is the perspective that we need to have. So in closing, for the rest of Lent and so on, my challenge to you all is to be alive. Grigoreo, be alive. Seize the moment and live orthodoxy, so that when that time really does come for us, that we'll be able to be in the white part of that black or white, that we'll be able to enter into the heavenly kingdom. And so, Kali Denami, and good strength to you all during the Lenten season, and I hope to see you all throughout all the services that we have.
Υπέρ των αδελφών ημών των ιερέων, η αμάρα όρθων διοχών ομοδοχών και πάσης της εκκλησιών ημών αδελφότητος, ετήρημεθα υπέρ των μακαρίων και αμνητήξεων κουκτόρων της Αγίας Εκκλησίας ταύτης και υπέρ πάντων των χρόνων πάσα μέρα